My name is Josh, and this is the Built for Wealth podcast, a millennial's no BS guide to financial freedom. In this podcast, we are interviewing investors from all different spaces and backgrounds and gaining insights on just how they built their wealth through real estate that hopefully leaves you inspired to build yours. You can follow along at builtforwealthpodcast.com. And without further ado, we'll jump right into the show. All right, we're live with Johnny Inch. We got connected on Instagram, doing some big developments all across, the Southeast.
Yep, Southeast, Northeast.
Yeah, and you've got some stuff here locally in the Charlotte Metro, which I thought was a great opportunity for us to connect. So, why don't you just give us a brief little background, who you are and what got you into real estate?
Yeah, so we started off kind of a little small company, and my grandpa built single family homes. My grandpa was like a troubadour. He would build 3 homes. He'd buy 3 lots. He'd live in one, build it. And literally he would lay the block. He would run the wire. He would build the whole house start to finish. Awesome. So my grandpa really laid like the foundation for framing, understanding electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and just how to build a good foundation. So we started there. My dad drifted into landscaping, which took us into a landscape company. And then my brother Jeff and I left my dad's company, started our own construction company. And then we grew that over the last 15 years. So we started out, basically nowhere from nothing, and we grew now to about $130 million a year in annual revenue.
That's a really big number. There's not too many people that get to that point in real estate, but what was the draw that took you from landscape into real estate?
Well, for so long, I watched my family struggle, like my dad and my mom. Like my dad wanted to succeed so bad, but understanding financials and understanding how to work with banks and financing projects or real estate, it just wasn't what he did. He just worked really hard. And I watched him do that. And like at some point I was like, I think I have the ability, and I think I could do this and I think I could grow this. And, I never went to school, never went to college. My mom taught me as a homeschooler. So, I was trying to overcome some of those thoughts in my mind, the negative thoughts. And finally I was just like, I got to do this. And I was building a retaining wall, and I was sitting with a bunch of our amigos and on a retaining wall block. And I was like, I think I could get into real estate. And I saw this guy drive by me in a brand new shiny BMW, and I knew the realtor. And I was like, man, I am covered head to toe. I got a big sombrero on, because it was in a hot sun. It's like 95 degrees out. I'm laying this big retaining wall. And I was just like, there has to be something more. Like I feel like I have more inside of me. And I think God put that in me from a young age. And like, I always knew that. So at that point then I was sitting on that retaining wall, got my real estate license, started practicing real estate. Then I started buying real estate, and then I started getting into more of the development, and that kind of took us to where we are today. And just, I've always pursued doing something greater. Yeah.
What was the first deal that you did in real estate?
We did a trade for a townhome for a landscape project.
Really?
So
nice.
So we designed this guy's landscape project, and Jeff and I wanted to get into real estate so bad, and we wanted to buy something. And at that point, we really didn't have the cash to do that. Yeah. So he said, "Hey, I've got a townhome. It needs a little bit of renovation done, but I'll trade you that for this landscape project." And that's how we did. That's how we got started.
Wow. Must have been a big landscape project.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was like a $75,000 landscape project.
Wow. So you got a townhome for $75,000.
Yep.
Then what?
Then we renovated that townhome, and we made it really nice, rented it, went and refinanced it, pulled some of our cash out to repay our landscape company. Nice. And then we started, once we got that built, then we bought another one. We started buying, at one point we had over 120 like townhome single family homes that we bought, rented, just like anyone else does. You buy, you start your portfolio, you grow it, you refinance it, you pull cash out. But Jeff and I always doubled down on real estate. We never took any, for 15 years, we didn't take $1 for fun. Essentially we didn't drive Lambos or Ferraris or, we would make $1 million, $2 million on a project. And we'd take that right back into buying 2 or 3 more projects.
Yeah. The snowball.
Yes. You never know when the snowball gets big enough to start, enjoying the snowball, or letting the snowball go itself. So you just keep doubling down, but it's a fun ride.
Were you always entrepreneurial, or was there like something that sparked that interest in you?
I think I was always entrepreneurial. Like I'm so risk adverse, but on the same side, I know I'm going to die.
Yeah.
So I'm super, super incentivized by life and like what's going to happen. Where am I going to, I'm a Christian. I believe in God. My faith is deep. My grandpa was a Baptist pastor. And I just know that I was put on earth for something more. So my entrepreneurial spirit fed with like, I feel like God put me on earth here for this reason. And I feel like God gave me the gifts to take risk and a high level of risk and be able to stomach it. Because that's really the gap between doing what everybody else does and doing what we do is just risk.
Yeah.
It's just how much can you take on and sleep at night and not be worried that you're going to lose everything for your family.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's probably the biggest difference between some that make it to 130 million a year and those that never do, is just your ability to tolerate stress and all the crap that you have to deal with. I mean, I'm sure with everything that you have going on, there's a lot of crap. How do you sleep well at night knowing everything you have going on?
I pass out usually. My mind runs so fast all day long, I usually pass out. But I just, we grew up in a little tiny trailer park. It was a great part of my life as a childhood, growing up in a little one bedroom. My siblings and I all slept in one bed. And I'm not worried to go back to the trailer. I'm not worried to lose everything and start over again, because the ride's been so fun and it's been so hard. And it's like, some days you feel like you're going to die. And some days, you can't breathe because the stress gets so much.
Yeah.
And if I wouldn't have gotten to those points where I put my body through that, we just would never reach where we're at today. That the first really big project, my brother just kept saying, you're going to put us under, you're going to put us under. And that was really hard to sleep those couple of years where I was trying to battle through, transition from small developer to large developer. Mm-hmm. I was worried too, but I just knew that like if I didn't take that chance and I didn't pursue, what I had in my heart, that I'd regret it, as I got older. And you have a timeline, you can do anything. You can do something when you're 70, 80 years old, but when you have the most energy and the most tolerance for risk and the gumption to get up every morning and go after something that you don't know you can even do, but you think you can.
Yeah.
For me, it's stimulating. So I actually enjoy it. But for some people, it give them stomach ulcers and put them in the hospital. Yeah.
I think I've had a couple stomach ulcers in my life.
It's part of the process.
Yeah, part of the process. What do you think is the difference between that mentality? Because I think the way you described it is beautiful. Like, I'm okay with going back to the mobile home. How do you go through life with that mentality? Like, what gives you the peace of being able to be okay with losing everything?
I think honestly, it's like my faith in God, because I think God, if you're a Christian and you believe in God, like God puts people in your life, God gives you opportunities, God gives you so many things to be thankful for. And honestly, I'm taking the risk because I'm just thankful that I get to do what I do every day. And I'm just thankful that God put me in the position I was in. God gave me the opportunity, even though the opportunity might feel like, it's heavy. And it might not feel like an opportunity. At some points, it might feel like a burden, and it shouldn't be. But I'm just very thankful and very just appreciative of like the life God gave me and the ability to handle stress. Because some people have a ton of risk tolerance and they can go and do crazy things. And they like drive right off the end of the cliff because they're so confident to the point where they don't know what they're doing. And some people have a little bit of confidence, but they're a little shady. And they'll do things that are like immoral, something that'll put them under, something that'll put them in jail. Yeah. So like the molecule, the DNA of someone who's an entrepreneur should be grounded, in my mind, in God and faith and gospel, and just be able to understand who you are and why you're here, and do big questions in life if you can answer them. And then going forward and believing that what God put in you can actually live out. And that's just what's hard. Getting that one step first.
Okay, so there's a guy that I really respect. He always says that the marketplace, meaning the business world, is one of the greatest sifters of men. How do you walk out Christian values in the marketplace when there's so many shady characters and people that do things the wrong way? How do you stand out?
Well, at some point, the shady characters, it catches up with you. And it might not in business. It might in your personal life. It might in your children. It might in your friends and your family. So at some point, it catches up with you. I struggled with that for a long time, that question right there. Because when we were younger, it came to tax season, and this one lady, in church told my dad, she's like, I could never be a business like you are because I would be too honest. And it threw me off. And I was young. I was probably 12, 13 years old when she said that. And it stuck in my mind. I was like, there is a level of understanding how to live in the gray. And everything's not black and white. Accepting no is something we never do. But you also have to have your moral compass straight, because if you get off to the right or the left, and we have friends that have, you go in bad directions. And perfect example of that is when you get a little taste of money Like, what does that make you? Who does that make you? And I drove, $8.5 million check, and I got a physical check to the bank one time, one of our deals. And I drove it to the bank and I deposited, and I drove back home and I called my brother Jeff and I said, I don't feel any different. Like, I didn't go out and buy a fancy car. We didn't go and drink. We didn't go do anything, and we literally went right back to work. We played with our kids that evening. When we woke up the next morning, we went right back to work. And it was like, there was no feeling. But sometimes, what you're kind of leaning into is like, they're bad people and those bad actors. They get a high off that, and that's what drives them. The money and the fame and the power and the evil, side of the world is what drives them. And we've had friends that have actually, fallen because of that. They got a little success, they got some cash, and they just started doing really bad things, and almost cost them their lives. So we're very centered, and I believe that's just being raised in a really conservative family. And my grandpa being a really conservative pastor kind of put those things inside of us.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What are some limiting beliefs that held you back in the beginning? Like, thinking back to Johnny sitting on that wall prior to that moment where you were like, I can do this. What were some limiting beliefs that held you back, or, even past that point?
My dad was such a credible worker, but he also was incredibly insecure. And he overcame that by being very forceful and loud and aggressive. And he always, one thing that I've struggled with, and he would never say, like, I'm proud of you, like, in a real sense, and never, hey, you can do this. Yeah. Like, most parents are like, hey, yeah, little Johnny can do it. Yeah, I know you can do it. Even if they don't think you can, they still say you can do it. Yeah. And I never had that. It was always, no, you shouldn't. No, you shouldn't. You can't do this. You can't do this. You should be happy making $15 an hour. When I left my dad's company, we got into a little bit of a fight, and when I walked out of the garage, he literally told me, you'll never make more than $15 an hour.
Ooh.
And when he said that, I just said nothing. I just sucked it up. I was trying not to cry, and I walked back to my car and I drove home, and that's the last time I ever worked for my dad.
Wow.
And those little things inside of me, and I knew, God gave me this perspective that's a little crazy, and I knew he didn't mean what he said, but I knew he didn't understand how to get to that next level. Like, that's what he knew. It's control words, work hard, work 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
And I always knew God had more inside of me. So to overcome that, like, your family, words that have been told to you. I didn't go to college. I was homeschooled. I tell people this and they laugh. Like, I literally did, my last math book was Amish, because Amish go to ninth grade, was Amish ninth grade math. So, like, I literally, it was a little booklet, that I filled out that I did, and that was my math. But my mom was a very, very good teacher, and she drilled me on math. Yeah. And then from that point on, from 9th to 12th grade, we did more like basic business economics, like filling out a checkbook, balancing a checkbook, getting a loan, like the process of a mortgage, filling out a mortgage for a loan. My mom was smart, and she put me ahead by doing that. And then once I got into the business world, once I started believing that I could do it, and then you have to have the cash to do it, and you have to have the risk tolerance to do it. Once I believed in that, then it was just like a snowball effect. Then it was like the wind was behind me.
Yeah. And
it's just, it never gets easy. It just gets bearable. Right. Like what we do now, and your question, like, what was that trigger? What was that like event that made you believe in yourself, or how do you get from that point? You never really get somewhere. It's just you bear more. Mm-hmm. Like the things that I was scared of before. And then once I got into those positions, and I'm like, shoot, I need like $3.5 million, to get for a bridge loan to get this project. And I'm already in the project for $500,000 of my money that I already have into it. I'm stuck. You have nowhere to go. Yeah. You lose $500,000, you hurt your business, or you've raised $3.5 million bridge loan. And that's what I put myself in, the very first large project that I did. And in that point, then you can't leave. Then you figure out, what you can handle, and it really tempers your mind, to handle, desensitizes you to what could happen to you in the world.
Yeah. It's your capacity increases
100%.
Over time. Your capacity for stress, for problems, for dealing with hard things, for managing people, all that stuff. What are some things that you're doing now in real estate that you never thought you would be doing when you were sitting on that block wall?
Probably raising capital and being like a steward, of investors that are trusting, tens of millions of dollars, now probably $100 million with us.
Yeah.
I never thought we would be at that point. I always thought we'd be in construction, always thought we'd be a developer, but I like the fact of, I get satisfaction in giving returns back to our partners and investors.
Yeah.
And it's weird like most people don't operate. They're all for them. My brother Jeff and I are almost for everybody else. Like we would take the hit on the investment and everybody else will make money just because we have like that servant leadership mentality. And it's like, I want to please you. I want to make you proud. So I want to give you a return on your money.
Yeah.
And we think about that every day. And I never thought I would be in a position, where we're taking in this kind of money and putting it to work.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about one of your best deals or your favorite deal.
One of our best deals, came out of nowhere, and I put a lot of time and energy into it, and I learned a lot through it. And that deal, made a lot of money.
You don't have to give us numbers if you don't want to.
Yeah, I don't want to. I hate to like drill in on the exact numbers because we discussed. Yeah. So it made a lot of money, and that really set us up. So when we got done doing this first large project, it was a large multifamily deal. It was on 8.5 acres, a smaller plot, but we put a lot of units.
Give us some like details.
Okay.
You don't have to go into specifics on numbers, but like, where'd you get it? What was it? How many units? To give us a little bit more of the story.
So we were, when I got into real estate, so this speaks to this deal.
Yeah.
So when I got into real estate, my parents were in the process of thinking about selling their farm. So through that process, I met a guy who had a huge industrial property in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. And he came to me and said, I want to buy your farm, your parents' farm. I'm the realtor. At that point, I'm just a realtor. Mm-hmm. So I'm a realtor. And I said, okay, I drove over there to his shop and I needed an addendum signed for my parents' farm sale. And when I pulled into his property, there was trees growing up through buildings. They were old, fallen down industrial buildings. And there was old alleys and streets there. I seen the power hanging on the power lines, all the transformers and things that I was rehearsing in my mind that if I get into large scale development, these are the things that I need to be looking for. Yeah. The sewer was running right down through the street there, the little utility issues that I knew we could address. And I said, hey, if you ever want to develop this property, I said, give me a call. At that point, I had never developed property that size.
Yeah.
And a couple of months later, he called me up. He's like, hey, actually, and he bought my parents' farm. He's like, hey, I actually want to develop this with you. So we started that process. Through that process, then he went and bought out. And I went through this long road of like in the middle of trying to figure out this whole complicated development. I got to buy him out. So I had to go get a business valuation. Then I had to raise $3.5 million of a bridge loan in order to buy him out to finish the project. And it took me down this crazy road, and it ended with a huge payout. Mm-hmm. And that payout allowed us to take $30 million and go and buy, 4 or 5 more large properties. We went and bought we went and took 9.9 million of it and bought 70 acre site that we're building now. It's 432 apartments we're just about finished with, and 174 townhomes. So, took that project, put it into that project, and we just kept doing that. And that kind of what started, that project is really what kickstarted us.
Wow. How much of that do you attribute to luck versus like God's hand in your life?
I would say more God's hand in my life, because people walk by opportunities and people get opportunities all the time. And if I would have never told him that, just meeting him on that site, he would have never thought about calling me to do a development like this. And everybody wanted that property because it had big tax dollars, tax credits for redevelopment. And we didn't utilize them. We just did market rate. But people knew that, and they were really fighting to have that property. If I want to ask him that, we would have never done the development that we're doing now. But it was asking the question and the right opportunity. And I always tell people, like, you have a grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, friends, family, cousins, brothers, sisters, friend that probably has a property they don't know what to do with. They probably have a house they don't know what to do with. They inherited 30 acres, somewhere here, somewhere in Conover, and they don't know what to do with it. Somebody has. And if you just keep speaking that into existence and you really want that and you work hard at it, those opportunities just start falling for you.
Yeah. What's that principle of, like, you want to buy a Jetta, all of a sudden you start seeing Jettas everywhere?
Yes.
Like it's stuff like that, you know? Okay. So that was your best deal. Tell me about your worst deal.
My worst deal turned out to be one of our best deals, but for a long time, for a year and a half, it was my worst deal.
Really?
And we got an issue with a partner that, through COVID, it was the beginning of COVID, prices went through the roof. It was a very difficult build, and we were carrying $7 million of hard cost, of the construction cost, and the bank wasn't funding that, and our partner wasn't funding that.
Wow.
And we got into like a pickle where we were trying to figure out who's funding what. He didn't want to put any more money into it. So we had to recapitalize in the middle of the project. And that was super, super tough. That was a year and a half of just pure stress. and we were keeping the project going at the same time. And that was like, 2021, and where interest rates started shooting way up and everybody started, thinking crazy things. The construction costs started going through the roof. In 22, they peaked. Yeah. So we were in that weird time. And we just pulled through it. We had another investment company come in, recapitalize our partner, took him out. We stayed in the deal and we finished the project, and it turned out to be one of our best projects. I mean, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, but
anything that you've lost money on, I mean, it can't all be like wins.
Yeah. So I woke up, several years ago, and like we had a lot of money out in development deals. In developments where, in construction you can go wrong, but typically if you're walking what you'll have some black and blue eyes. You just won't kill you. In development, if you overextend in development, you can get into big trouble. And we were pretty overextended in development. Not to the point that like we were going to lose, everything, but we were in tricky times. And there are some projects, that I had to walk away from that I had $300,000-$400,000 into.
Wow. And
then you just have to turn and walk the other way.
Wow. Just in like development fees?
Yeah, in development phases. Well, in civil engineering, all your submission fees, engineering costs for zoning, like in those projects we were trying to get rezoning or variances to be able to build more units or, lot coverage variance, whatever. And yeah, you start getting into them quickly. Before you know it, you're $500,000 into the deal. And if you can't utilize all those costs into the deal with your underwriting, if you don't account for it, you're kind of lost. So we learned the hard way on a couple of deals. We had a couple of deals that, really, really went well with very little cash into that offset all those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not the ones I told you. We had a couple of industrial deals that we just did super home runs, grand slams on.
So were those ones you developed? Or?
One we developed, built, and sold to Raymore, to a large furniture supplier.
Yeah.
And then we had one that we got in total for 1 million square feet. And then, another developer came to us and said, "Hey, I have a buyer. I want to buy this from you."
So it's just sold like big warehouse spacing.
Yep, big warehouse spacing. We sold that.
How does your construction company do all of that? Like warehouse, multifamily, all that stuff?
Yeah, we did a bunch of warehouses.
For anything that's like new asset classes, like how do you go from like building apartments and then it's like, oh, we'll do warehouses too? Like what? Those seem like different things. Yeah,
they're a lot. And you have to be very diligent in how you underwrite these because they are different. But the way you underwrite a multifamily deal is the most complicated way of underwriting real estate. Between multifamily, I would say, is the most complicated way of like understanding, financing, underwriting. You have 180, 250 units. You have, your absorption. Everything affects your returns. How fast you absorb the units, how fast you're leasing up, when your construction timeline hits, how much, equity gets put in before you hit your loan proceeds. All of those things change your return profile. In a warehouse, it's one building, it's $750 a square foot, and that's it. That's the only metric. And those terms sometimes go for 10 years. The hard part about multifamily is when you get in these large communities is like you're 100% betting, projecting, on rent growth, non-rent growth, exit cap rate. What are you going to get when you sell out? Yeah. What's your cash flow going to be? We're always trying to be around 30%, our expense ratio, push below that. A lot of times we're 28, 29%. So we're trying to hit that, a good threshold where we get a good return for our investors. We're pushing rents. And then we're also just being good stewards of our company's money as well.
Yeah. Where did you learn how to do all of this? Like the underwriting the multifamily, underwriting the commercial developments?
That was, so I met a guy that we were going to buy a property management company, and a pretty large one, and it ended up falling through. But the guy that was the consultant for that company, I became friends with, and he worked for a large private equity firm, Manhattan. And he basically walked me through development underwriting. We would sit till 2, 3 in the morning and just modeling deals. And he really taught me how to model. And he did it at a large scale across the United States, with a huge fund. And I was just trying to do it deal per deal and things that we were doing. Yeah. But the same metrics applied, the same, underwriting tables that he's using that I was using. So I really, derived everything from him. And I give a lot to him. I gave him an award in our Christmas banquet like 2 years ago. Oh, yeah. Just like, he really taught me everything that I know in development.
Yeah. Wow. What does your team look like today?
So we have just about 400 employees on our team between a bunch of different divisions. We have 7 divisions that we really focus on. One of them is the country club that we own, the golf course we own. So that, has a lot of employees, and we're also developing on that course in different pockets of the course. So it's a construction project, plus it's the golf course. We have a real estate brokerage that we really, we love and enjoy. And we have a lot of great realtors that grow. That in itself, the development division has about 12 to 14 people. And that's very skilled, concentrated on development, capital markets, equity, debt financing. That's specifically for that, entitlements, acquisitions. Then we have a large landscape division that we do all in-house. All of our landscapes done in-house, all of our installs, trees, plants, like stormwater pits, all that stuff we do in-house. The construction company is large as all of our construction projects, and they operate. We also have we have a property management company that manages about 6,000 units. That's growing every week. And then we also have a couple like off businesses that you wouldn't put in those categories. So we have an auto mechanics garage that has techs. So we have auto mechanics garage that does all of our like service work and inspection work on all of our vehicles.
Nice.
And then we have a couple other like smaller companies that we own that just, that they don't make a ton of revenue, but they kind of enhance our experience. Like we have a handyman service called Westwood Handyman Service that goes out and does a lot of our repairs and fixes on our apartments. And if it's smaller communities under 150 units, we don't have a full-time on-site property like maintenance director. So in that case, we use handyman services from Westwood. So,
are these things you sought out intentionally, or they're just opportunities that came to you and said, "Oh, I can bolt this on and it works"?
The property management company was an opportunity that came, and I always wanted to be in that, and I knew that was going to give us control. Lease up is like one of the most important things in these projects. Once you get a property leased up, everything else kind of falls in place.
Yeah.
But it's hard like to lease up, and you have to have your foot on that gas all the time. And my brother Jeff really runs that. He runs all the marketing and sales. So he's on top of lease up like crazy. Every week he's running a huge leasing team, and he really focuses on the lease up. I'm mostly focusing on finance and construction and development.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you buy your property management company, or did you start it from scratch?
We bought it. Yeah, when we bought it, it was doing $240,000 a year in revenue. And this year will be almost $5 million. So it's $5 million.
I mean, $240,000 in revenue doesn't seem like a lot for a property management company. What made you seek out buying that versus just starting from scratch?
Only because they already had an existing base of cash flow. Like there was already people hired there. They already had existing property managers in place, and then I could take them and just keep adding to it. And that's what we did. We just kept adding to that. And some of our properties, but also we do a lot of third party management, and it's very, very tough. And I don't know if you do property management, you get into that side of it, but it is super taxing. And we have a great team. The girls on our team just hustle.
Yeah. Awesome.
It's a grind business. You just got to keep grinding every day.
What, you're saying being a landlord is easy?
Yeah.
It's passive income though, right?
Yes, I hate that. There's nothing passive about it if you're doing it yourself.
Yeah, but the gurus say.
Yes. They say it's easy. Everybody can do it. But yeah, it's very, very tough. Most people, I always tell people, if you're trying to diversify what all these people are trying to tell you to do on, YouTube and social media, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 homes is not going to change your life at all. You're really not, unless you buy them cash, you're really not even going to notice the cash flow.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be so minute, the amount of cash flow that comes through that. When you get 15, 20, 30, you start getting those higher numbers, then you start feeling it. And even if the cash flow is smaller, time is, the greatest benefit of all of us. If you have time, it's undefeated. So you have that property 15 years, then all of a sudden 15 years from now, you wake up and gosh, it's throwing off $20,000 a month.
Yeah.
And it's, people think that's a get rich quick scheme. Real estate is a get rich long scheme. Like it's a long time. These projects we start till we start them, get them entitled, do the construction, finish them. They're 5 years.
Wow.
You're hanging on for 5 years.
Wow.
It's really hard to keep, focus and drive and for 5 years to get these projects off the ground, plus a lot of cash.
Yeah. At what point do you make that decision to exit? Because if it's a get rich long scheme, at what point do you just say we're going to keep this versus sell it?
So our first several deals, like, if I was born into a family that had money, I always said, if my dad was rich, I'd be a billionaire by now. Like I really think I would, but we came from nothing. We didn't have any money. So we had to sell. So we couldn't really keep anything at first. We kept a small portfolio of stuff that we bought like 10, 12 years ago. That's really performing well.
Yeah.
But the stuff that we do now really is just, it's a project basis. If we think that we can keep it and make really good cash flow, we'll keep it. If our partners want to sell, we sell. We're not married to anything. We don't have any, we want to be long-term thinkers, and we've always been 100-year thinkers. Like, it's all we think about is we want to keep it forever. Mm-hmm. But then if the opportunity comes and, our investor group says, hey, we should sell, and we should do another project, then we're going to sell.
Yeah. It's awesome. Where are you sourcing all of these opportunities?
Most of them are off market. Most of them are calling us, or we're pursuing them, or we see like a property that could be nice, that could be really good for development, and we'll go and reach out to the owners. There is some brokers, that'll bring you projects. If you don't have a tight relationship with a broker, I apologize to all the brokers out there, but if you don't have a good relationship with them, they just broker you to death, and you end up paying double what you could pay for if you buy it straight from the farmer, straight from the property owner. So we really focus our team on like, I'll pay the broker fee, but I want to negotiate with the owner. Yes. Like, that's all I care about.
Yes.
I do not want to deal with the broker at all. This morning on the way here, like, that was my conversation back and forth with a broker that were 49 unit, and a 44 unit beside it, that we're looking to buy, and we're starting to get brokered.
I wish that was the case even with residential transactions, because I feel like there's a breakdown in communication, because it's all through text or email. It's not personal.
Yep.
And stuff just tends to fall apart.
Yep.
Things aren't perceived in the right light. I'm like, let me just talk to the owner and ease their concerns about this inspection issue or whatever it is. I love that strategy, going straight to the owner, because the brokers, they're doing their job. They want to make the most possible, but they're incentivized for the wrong reasons.
That's right. Yeah. I don't mind paying them. I just don't want them to mess up my deal.
Yeah. Have there been ones where they've screwed up opportunities for you?
Gigantic. Oh yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Like deals that, I thought were done deals, that we were talking about them for months and months and months. And the broker just comes in and, finds a better offer, or another buyer's pressuring them and then they're trying to negotiate to get out with you, or they're telling the sellers, the project we're working on right now, the broker told us that the property had preliminary approvals on a new building, which we were like, great, we can put this in our pipeline, we can get working on it. Come to find out 3 months later, there's 0 approvals. They didn't even start the process yet.
Oh, geez.
So like, you're ready to go. And then they tell you that. So, now we're dealing directly with the owners. We have a tight timeline, and we have a lot of employees, and we have, we have a pipeline that we keep full, and we don't keep it too full. We like to have 8-9 projects going at one time. Mm-hmm. And to do that, we can't have projects that we talk about for 6 months and then they die. Yeah. We want to talk about them for a month, like them or love them, or hate them, and then we get rid of them, and then we move on and we keep the next one.
Yeah,
there's always a lot of deals out there.
How have you dealt with some of the market conditions now? Knowing you have all these developments in your pipeline, the stuff you have active, like, what's your thought process behind that?
When you say market conditions, you're saying bad market conditions or good market conditions?
Just with the way that the market is right now, the debt world of, rates coming down, but like the lending rates are not really favorable still to investors. Like, how do you deal with that?
Well, one of our mentors that was a billionaire when he died, and he built everywhere, that my brother Jeff and I lean on a lot. He always said, like, we ask him, when do you build? And he's like, you build all the time. He's like, you build in bad times, you build in good times, you build anytime. He's like, you never stop building. So if you can build it for the price that you're saying you can build it for, and the price that he was building industrial for, say, if you can build it, then you just never stop building it. Mm-hmm. And for us, it's like, if we model it correctly. Now, what changed market-wise is we have more interest reserve. So we're buffering our interest reserve account in order to be able to carry that project a little longer, and lease up might go a little bit slower. Yeah. And one issue that we're having right now, like, and it's a cultural issue, is that we only remember Americans back like 2 or 3 years, max, maybe. And what we have to go to, and I'm challenging my team this, is like, you have to think what you thought about in 2018. Go back to your emails in 2018, 2017, and look at how long we were looking to absorb that community. 150 units, how long we were looking to absorb that. Yeah. Don't look at it today, because 2020 and 21 and 22 just like destroyed everything.
An anomaly.
Like, everybody was leasing, everybody was buying, so everything was moving. Now you got to go back to 2017, 2018. Like, what was the market doing then? That's where we're getting back. Over the last 5 years, we're going to get back to that. Like, the pendulum swung way up, the pendulum comes back. The pendulum will end where it was in 2016, 17, 18. Mm-hmm. And that leasing velocity, that's leasing velocity that we want to model in our future deals, so that we don't get overzealous and overconfident, and that would make us, make a wrong decision.
Yeah. That's good. That's really good advice. Yeah. So knowing some of your projects that you have coming up, like where are you focusing? Like for anybody who's potentially watching or listening, they've got deals, they got opportunities. Where are you looking?
Right now we're looking at like a lot of the, a little bit of the Sun Belt. We love North Carolina, South Carolina. We're focusing more on like the tech hub, which we feel like Columbus. We love Columbus, Ohio, and that surrounding counties. We're more secondary market builders, so we don't really focus on like the big cities. We want to be right outside those big cities and markets that are up and coming. People want to raise families, go to work. Maybe they'll drive, commute to the city. So we're looking at that. Central PA, where we're based, we love. But we would build anywhere. I mean, we love Montana, out in Bozeman, Montana. Oh, wow. We've looked at a couple projects out there. Yeah. We're looking at a couple down right outside of Nashville. Anywhere that there's good metrics, and really we're chasing the jobs. We want somewhere that are actively growing. We want pro-growth areas. Like right now, I created a development manual, and that development manual, the very top line that I give our employees when we're looking at doing new projects, do they want us here? That's all I care about. Because if the town, the borough, the township does not want us there, no matter how great our project is, they'll kill it. Yeah. And then we'll waste time thinking we can do something that it's just against the wind.
Yeah. That's great advice too.
Because you've dealt with that some too.
Oh, like, yeah.
You could walk into the room and you could feel the room, and it's like they just do not even want to talk to you.
I had a project once that it was in a historic district, beautiful project. And the board unanimously approved everything. And then it opened up for public comment, and there's a line out the door of people in opposition to us. And it was like, well, this is dead now. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I totally get it.
That's what we kind of live by. And we've learned a lot through that, because we've had the same thing. We've gotten booed out of rooms, and, very like big fights. Cops had to come, keep people under control.
Really?
Yeah. For just warehousing is very controversial. And in our area, it's booming. There's 20 million square feet of new warehouse within the last 2 years where we live at. And it's just everywhere. And people are tired of the trucks, tired of the warehousing. So because of that, any new project you bring to market right now, you bring to the board, it's just hammered. And it's getting that way across the United States. There's just a bad, I don't know, developers have a really bad name for no reason, just because they want to build. Yeah. And, I always challenge our team when we've had some social media hits and people were coming after us saying, you guys are, building everywhere and you're building all this property, you're causing traffic, whatever. Somebody's got to build it. The person who wants the home to live in is so thankful that we build it. Yeah. The person who lives beside it is upset that we build beside their house because they don't want that person to have the new home. So we're not doing anything evil. I challenge our team all the time. It's like, no matter what you read or no matter what anybody says, we're providing safe, quality housing for people to live in. That's it. You can say we're adding traffic. You can say we're bringing in outsiders to the area. Whatever the outside NIMBYs want to say. Yeah. NIMBYs, not in my backyard. Oh. Yeah. The NIMBYs, not in my backyard group. They oppose everything. What we do is we focus on quality, safe housing that we can provide to people, and they come and live in our communities. I said, if you boil it down to that, we're not doing anything wrong. I mean, Jesus was a carpenter. We're really, really not doing anything wrong. Yeah. But for some weird reason in the United States right now, developers have such a bad name. And I always start off by front of these boards by saying, I know I'm a developer. I know I'm standing beside, maybe a drug dealer or something similar. That's how you view me right now. But I'm actually just going to want to build houses. That's all I want to do. Yeah. So yeah, you gotta be able to bounce over there.
That's awesome. I'm getting a lot of great advice out of this, selfishly. This is good.
That's good.
What have been some of the most strategic relationships you've had in business that have helped get you to where you are today?
I would say I met a guy in Lancaster. His name's Dave Lynch. And he has Lynch Financial. And he taught me how to think about finance in such a different world. And I always had boxes around finance, like how we could finance this, how I could leverage this, how I could bring investor into this, recapitalize this. And he just taught me a lot about how to think creatively how I finance this piece of property or this project, this building. And I spent a lot of time with him, and he did a lot to help me.
What were some specifics that he taught you that helped change your view on financing?
This is crazy. It sounds like cliche, but almost anything's possible. And if you never ask, you'll never get. So one thing he taught me is when we're going into the banks or we did some structured buyouts and things, we did some acquisitions. It's just, I just asked for everything that I wanted even if it didn't make sense to the bank, it didn't make sense to the lenders.
Yeah.
I just asked for it. And you'd be surprised what comes back from that.
Really?
Like you think you're being so unreasonable. And then all of a sudden the bank comes from here and comes the whole way over to here.
Wow.
That's like, they want a 1.3 DCR, debt coverage ratio on a project. And I only want to do a 1.2. And they're like, they'll never approve a 1.2. I would ask for a 1.15. Like, you understand the debt coverage ratio. So I'll ask for a 1.15 debt coverage ratio. So I don't have to hit that metric. When our project gets to stabilization, I got to hit a 1.3, and after a 1.3, they consider it stabilized. I said, no, I want a 1.15. And I did a 1.2. The whole time they're telling me I'm never going to get that, and just little things like that make a big deal when rents like change and rents start like going down. Absolutely. And then you got to hit that criteria, and then all of a sudden you're in default. So those little things that you challenge the banks with at the beginning, they mean a lot in the end.
Yeah. What are some other things that you've just asked for that were unreasonable that they compromised on?
Gosh, wish I had this question earlier. So I did a lot of workouts like from the banks, and a couple of the workouts, like I just said, you're going to hold all the loan. I'm going to put no money down. I'm going to take the property over. I'm going to get the cash flow from the property. And then 2 years after I get it stabilized, then I'll refinance with you. But for 2 years, you're just gonna have to ride along with me and let me step into these shoes and just take controls without any money, without any cash.
How do you walk in there and just like
very confidently
take a dump on them?
Very confidently. Yeah, it's all about confidence. Yeah. And you have to have a track record. I mean, you can't just go in and just pretend like you know what you're doing or what you know.
Yeah,
people can read through that very quickly. And if you have confidence and you can do things, you go in and tell the bank what you want. And a lot of times in the workout positions, they just don't want to deal with the sponsor that they're dealing with now. Yeah. They just want to get away from him, and they want somebody else to put in place.
Yeah. What are some of those scenarios that you've walked through with them as far as like assets that you bought?
So we had a mobile home community that the owners, unbeknownst to the bank, were selling the lots off and with the mobile homes and taking the cash and never paying down the debt.
Oh no.
So it was a huge title issue where the bank's sitting there saying, oh, I have all these lots, hundreds of lots. And then they have to go to the individual lot owners, and that individual lot owner they have a mortgage filed for that lot separate outside of the loan.
Oh no.
So they have 100 individual lot sales unbeknownst to the bank, and they took the cash for all that and they took off.
What? How did you fix all that?
So we had to go back to every single homeowner and say, basically, you legally weren't allowed to buy this lot. So we're going to give you X amount of dollars to buy you out. And then you're going to just rent your lot like you would in any other mobile home community. You're going to rent a lot from us.
Wow.
Some people, tried to file suit. Some people said, okay. Some people were like, just take my lot in my mobile home. I don't care. I'm moving. Like crazy scenarios. Wow. So it took like probably 3 years to get through that, to get all of those lots back towards a typical mobile home community where you have lot rent and you have, your mortgage of your home, but you don't own the lot.
So cool.
Yeah.
And is that the one where you walked in there and you're just like,
Yes. 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 There's no money exchange. I'm just going to save you guys.
Yeah. You guys got into a pickle. I'm going to fix it.
Yes.
Yeah. Essentially.
Yeah. It was hard.
What are some other strategic relationships that you've had in business?
I mean, we haven't had a ton of relationships that have really helped us, like from a business standpoint. We've had a lot of good mentors that have came in and said, stop thinking about this the way you're thinking about things. And, the guy that I told you about earlier that was a consultant, he really helped me think about, the correct process to underwrite real estate, to develop real estate, to, exit real estate, perspectives in real estate development. And that's really, he's probably the most influential person to me. Outside of that, there's been a ton of great people that have like gave me good ideas, have stood beside us, that have really, really like coached us along. But he's really, really been the one. Billy's been the glue that's kind of held it together.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right. This is kind of this is a deeper question. You mentioned you got all of these companies, all these assets, and some of the stuff we were even talking offline about. How much is enough?
I get that question a lot, actually. It's not about enough, because enough is like, we have enough now, we could sell, exit and do really, really well. But it's more about now, like I have a weird thought, And my brother Jeff usually has to interpret my thoughts because I think like in the clouds. And at some point, all the money in the world goes somewhere. It goes to evil people, it goes to good people. The good people, the Bible verse, when the righteous are in rule, people will rejoice. Mm-hmm. And when good people have money and good people are raising money and they're growing their businesses and they're doing good things and they're able to help people out and they're able to give back to the community, they're able to grow their community. I think that's like the highest level of calling, in the world. So there's never enough because my brother Jeff and I give back way more than we receive. And what we're doing now is we started, as a couple weeks ago, it's called Inch Friends Foundation. So it's Inch Foundation is Inch Friends, if. And we're really going to start playing off the hashtag, what if? What if you took that risk? What if you did that? What if you did that? Yeah. And that's our 501c3 that we're going to give back to. And we've been doing that for years and years just through the company. Mm-hmm. But now we're going to make a conscious effort to give back in a lot larger scale. And something that was really close to our heart is like the first responders, fire, police, rescue. And then on the other side of that, my passion has always been sports. Like I love sports. So I want to be able to continue helping youth sports, help kids come out of poverty, kids that can't afford to play in like travel sports because it's super expensive to play in AAU. I don't know if you have kids in sports. I have a lot of kids in all sports and like it's super expensive. So how can we help them, get to these tournaments, play in these sports? So between first responders, police, our veterans, and then our youth, we want to be able to start, helping them out and building our community. And every community that we build in, we want to do this.
Yeah. Super cool. Okay. This is the last deep question. I promise, the last one. You started with nothing. Your dad told you you'll never make more than $15 an hour. You have 4 kids. How do you raise your kids with the resources and the abundance that you have now? How do you raise them to not be entitled? Like the pendulum swings in that opposite direction.
It's a thought that I think about every single day. I really do. Because when your question of what's enough and when's enough, like when is enough inheritance? Inheritance is, the Bible talks about your children's children, should receive an inheritance. So how much is enough to give your children's children? What about if your children, give it all away or, do something to mess that up? What I think, honestly, is forcing your kids to work at a young age and teaching them the value of money and also teaching them that the life that you live now is such a blessing and that it's not real life. Yeah. Like I tell my kids constantly, our life is not real life. I lived where I had nothing, where at 9:00 at night, I had headlights on the truck trying to finish projects, and I'm working around, I'm eating my dinner at 10:30 at night. I lived through that through a lot of years. It's super hard then to recreate that for my kids. And I tried a long time trying to recreate that for my kids. Like you get out there and work, my oldest son, like you get out there and get dirty and work all day, all night long. And they come back home to a nice, warm, safe house and they get everything that they ever want. And I think the greatest gift that I had was I was always wanting. Like I never had anything. So I always wanted more. So for right now, for my kids, it's just me preaching to them every day that like, we've been blessed by God, but if we don't give back to the community and give back to the people that blessed us, we're spitting in God's face.
Yeah.
Like God gave us so much. If we don't give back and we don't do what we're supposed to do, it's like you're spitting in God's face. And I want that picture to be in their minds and to understand like every day you need to put your best foot forward. God gave you everything he gave you. And if you're not thankful for it, then you'll do bad things in life. And if you're truly thankful for it, people will see your heart.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love that. Good. All right. If people want to keep up with you or reach out to you, they got a deal they want to bring, or they just want to ask you a question, what's the best way for them to do that? Probably through Instagram, direct messages. Like if they want to direct message us, we go through them like once a week and then respond to some of them. We've been getting a lot lately. So we go through and we respond to a bunch. That's probably the best way, sometimes through my email as well. jinch.jr@inchandco.com. That's probably the best way to get through, and my assistant will filter through and, I see all of them. Nice. Good deal. Yeah, man. Anything you want to leave listeners with before we close out? No, not really. I mean, I like what you're doing. I think, getting more people to understand that there is good people in the world trying to do good things, and, real estate can be a dirty game, and especially in development. Yeah. And there's good people trying to do good things out there. Awesome, man. Thanks for coming on. This is fun.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
That's all we've got for today's show. If you loved the content, please leave us a rating and review. It really helps us grow. If you want to follow along my journey as a real estate investor, you can go to builtforwealthpodcast.com and you'll find all of my social links there. Thanks for listening.